And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Wheelie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Atoll, and I'm joined again by Electric Seth Weintraub. How's it going, Seth?
I'm good.
And we've got another special guest with us this week. Thank you, Storm Sondors, for joining us. How you doing, Storm?
Doing really well. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Absolutely. We know it's pretty early out there in California, but we are excited to talk some Sondors news. In addition to some of the other e-bike news we're going to talk later in the podcast, we're going to start off with Sondors because the company has been in the news a lot lately. We just reported on the fact that they launched this new EV credit for their motorcycles, the Metacycle, which this isn't actually a federal tax credit like you think of for electric cars. This is something that Sondors created themselves, and they basically were able to offer $2,500 off of their $6,500 Sondors Metacycle electric motorcycle, which I've ridden, is an awesome ride. We'll talk about that next. But first, we're going to talk to Storm about this new credit and how they were able to sell 1,000 Metacycles in a week using this. So what was the impetus here, Storm? Why launch this amazing discount on these bikes all of a sudden?
Well, Micah, you know my beginnings, right? It was always a mission-based company from day one, since the crowdfunding. Remember that amazing price what we offered for e-bikes early on, and the wrath I took for it. I just think part of it is engineering. We're having a frame, low pressure casted frame without all these welds and lines along the waist, and there's a lot of labor cost savings in that aspect. And also, as we have shipped right now almost 2,000 units, right, this year, last quarter and early, this year, our volume is going up, so we're able to negotiate better pricing and so forth, so forth.
2,000 units you guys have shipped? Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been white glove delivery. Now Metacycles in every state, every 50 states. Even yesterday, one landed in Hawaii last night, so that was good. Just prior to the show, so I got everything covered. So I can right now say, and a big thank you letter from the owner, how much we assisted, because I don't believe we technically shipped there right now. So, and also we went through, all growing pain with all registrations, because this is a first product for Sondors, which is homologated and plated, and had to deal with bureaucracy in every state since they never heard of Metacycle or Sondors, right? So it's a fascinating experience, but at the same time, as you said, when you rode it, it's a natural progression of electric bikes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I know that you guys had been planning an IPO. Now it seems like that might be postponed. Is this helpful to be able to sell so many motorcycles quickly and help raise some additional funds?
I look more at this as the space is still quite open to a lot of competition, and my idea always to be able to sell at scale, which has always been a part of our business plan, is just to grab a larger market share. Just take as much as you can right now, because once you get people as owners of the Metacycle, they're not going away. And there's new Metacycles coming out. In near future, the line is expanding. So that's always my approach, because otherwise we're spending $2,000 on marketing on Facebook ads to sell it. So
so that's really interesting that you're using the opportunity to get bikes out there as a marketing tool, and that's really cool. I didn't think of that, and that's awesome. But you mentioned there's going to be more Metacycles. Do you mean more models? And if you could, maybe you can give us a hint of what we can expect there.
Well, we're developing a couple mid-drive models, but they're higher price point. So I'll certainly once we unveil them or start to drop them down the road. But Metacycle is still the most this is going to be like at most friendly user case where like pretty much like Micah, like you said, right? You hop on it, maybe 10 seconds later, 15 seconds later, I got it, right? So this is one of the kind experience, right? And other ones are going to be more like directed to a specific audience.
Right, absolutely. So one of the things that I feel like has been sort of a hallmark of the Metacycle is that it's been largely pitched towards newer riders, maybe not someone who's already been riding for a while or has 2 or 3 bikes in their garage, but someone who perhaps even came from electric bicycles and wanted to upgrade a bit. So when you've got these new riders, new customers, how do you ensure that you're sort of providing not just the consumer education, but also the service that these newer riders that might not understand motorcycles as well and might need more, hand holding from a company, especially when you guys, doing both electric bicycles and motorcycles at the same time? How do you deal with all of that customer service?
So I looked at the data last night. So I think 90% right now for Metacycle, any kind of tech supports, we're able to solve via Zoom or FaceTime, right? So it's just a troubleshooting, customer didn't push this button or did that. So 10% we fly out to sometimes fly, depends where our technicians are based, but we go to your house, because that's always been my experience that, look, if I have a transportation, I hate taking my cars to dealer and dropping off, getting rental. We're just doing the same business model what Tesla does. We service majority of cases on your property, driveway, garage, wherever you allow us to do it. And, worst case scenario, we'll take it back and get you a new one.
Right. Okay. And I mean, that must be fairly labor intensive. If on those few times that you do have to send, a team member out there, do you have the staff to be able to handle those sort of personal visits?
Right now, yes. As we scale, we will, of course, we're going to have to scale tech support as well. It's always fine line. The best thing is that you get off the production line perfect product, right? So you don't need to hear about it for the next couple of years, or from the owners, right? So that's always been a priority. Manufacturing is kind of my real passion. So we're not having, I think, 1,500 or 2,000 Metacycles where we ship right now. There's been maybe 6 cases right now where we had to go actually to your house and see it.
Oh, okay. So it's a very small number.
Very small. Right now, very small. That's the beauty of this space, right? It's just if you get it right, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? And if you start complicating and creating things where then the direct to business, direct to customer model doesn't work, right? But as long as you do the designs in-house, engineering in-house, and all your tech people are brought along the development process, right? So now they already understand, they know there's a lot of questions being asked during the development process. So I think this is like that as we progress direct to consumer, the companies which really get build from ground up like Sondors does, and involve tech people, customer service people from early development stages. That's the future where entire business knows what's going on once the product is launched.
Yeah, and Storm, you mentioned Tesla earlier, and I see so many kind of parallels between Sondors and Tesla, especially early Tesla. I wonder though how, obviously, supply chain issues slow things down. You can't always, make the dates that you said you could make. Tesla's been in the same boat. But Tesla, they finally, delivered their products. You've always delivered your products, maybe a little late, but always delivered, always, impressive products. Everybody loves the things they get. So, how do you assure people, especially in this climate, the Silicon Valley Bank is going under today and all kinds of weird stuff is happening. Supply chain, I think you mentioned prior to the show, that there's a lot of supply chain stuff going on in China where everybody's making really cheap e-bikes. How do you convince your customers that you're going to be around for the long haul? You're going to be around for the delivery of your vehicles. What's the thing that they need to know?
Well, we've been around for 8 years, so we have some history,
Which is forever in the e-bike industry.
Yeah, it's kind of long time, world is getting interesting. It's a interesting place to be in. Our space, we were planning to do the IPO, but the environment is just so bad right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's been 30. I was told by our bankers this has been like a worst environment in past 30 years, right? When it comes to IPOs, they were already impressed that we got as far as we did. So that's shelved for a while. The way you do it, the way we stay around is that we just try not to overextend ourselves. You know what I mean? So keep the small crew. Do not overextend, and when you do, make sure that you make the adjustments. And also, to be honest, I do a lot of things myself on a daily basis when it comes to being involved on designs and engineering and production. So I always have a pulse on a company. So knowing all the details intimately. So the answer to it is, we have still an epic product and people are still buying. So as long as that takes place, I think the biggest mistake we could do is we put out a product which is just a dud. But I haven't done it recently yet, at least.
No, everybody's really excited about the Metacycle. Yeah. I don't think we've seen anything quite like it in that space. Clearly, it's design is way ahead of everybody else. And price point obviously is amazing. So how do you ramp up sales? Talk to me about scaling. Are you getting more factories involved? Are you getting more parts? What's
scaling is I believe our production right now is around 60 units a day. So in scaling right now, we're scaled. Our scale matches our sales, right? So it's well proportioned. So and as far as additional factories and everything, now it's more efficiency. See, I always look about how can we redesign something and make something efficient in the same space and with the same headcount, right? So and also it's interesting when you guys mentioned how futuristic it is. I will never forget that when I was at Malibu Kitchen. It's 2 years ago, just launched the first original Metacycle. And I was standing next to Jay Leno and somebody was riding in a Metacycle and he turned to me and he said, "I see the future." And I was like, wow, did you really say that? Because this guy is, respected in a automotive space and motors, but it's ICE engines, right? So, and it's I was just really impressed about it. So it's always stuck with me. So when people make, because, there's a lot of always negativity when I need to listen, but when somebody says something really recognizes, you're like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one, right? Because early on, when you create a product like a Metacycle, oh my God, I had to listen to 4 prominent factories to tell me that this cannot be built, right? Speaking of when you say, are you, how are you staying in business or what's the future? I need to hear every day that something what I want to do can be done, right? And this is when we're already, we were doing a pre-sales on Metacycle, right? And it's this frame can be done, that's impossible, can be done, you know what I mean? So, and I think really, Seth and Mike, also really in this space, what's going to be next also for Sondors is that we need to continue to make things which people believe can be done, price-wise, design-wise, engineering-wise, to keep it relevant.
Yeah, so we can kind of pivot at this point to your bikes, which, kind of you changed the world kind of with the $500 fat tire bike. I think maybe you could even say kind of created the e-bike revolution. I know a lot of people that would never consider an e-bike saw that thing, saw what it could do, and whether they chose that or maybe something else, kind of blew up the space. So talk to us about e-bikes. Like, we love the Mad Mods.
Yeah.
What else is happening in that space?
So I'm going to be launching a whole new meta line for e-bikes probably in next 2 months. So we're going to revamp our entire e-bike catalog.
Wow.
So because time has come, as you guys know, it's like, anytime I go to trade shows, you know what I mean? Like you see our Fold frame, it's probably one of the most copied frames out there, so
For sure.
and it's like that, and I never care about it. It's like it just sometimes throws me off. I'm in a car and I'm seeing somebody go by, it's like, that's Sondors. No, that's very close to it, but not it. So it's constantly, you have to watch that. But we're gonna introduce all new models, and frankly, the ones which we have currently going to become instant classics, because what I just want to go again, like I could kind of take our own road when it comes to innovation and forward-looking product line and e-bikes, because everything is starting to look the same, so we need to start to differentiate and go back to, like Seth said, we started early on and everybody copied, so I trust that we can do that again.
Absolutely. So, it amazes me how many different directions you guys are working in, though that seems to be a hallmark of Sondors in general. You bring out this new meta line of e-bikes, you're scaling up production and deliveries, it sounds like, of the Metacycle. I know you mentioned that, you've streamlined the team a little bit, trying not to overextend yourselves. How do you balance all of these things with a smaller team and even more development and even more products?
It's how I balance that a lot of times what I think are like good ideas or direction we should go, I let it a little bit simmer, and instead of pursuing a lot of wrong directions, we put all our focus in the right direction. So because you know what I mean? Like I learned this with like a hard way, where you try to optimize sometimes a lot of things which we should not even go there in the first place, right? So, and that's where companies drain themselves, because they kind of don't know what their DNA is. So they're looking left, they're looking right, they're looking here, they're looking there. And I try to kind of tune out all that noise, what's going on in this space, and what people are chasing. And I'm just constantly bringing back to like, what would be my experience? How would I feel? Because I've been riding a bicycle since I was a kid. I always rode. I was just talking to my girlfriend the other day how, in Chicago, I used to ride bike to work, right? And my face was red because sometimes it was hot, sometimes it was cold. So you never know, right? So, and it's just not following the noise and being really concentrated. And once you define what you really want to pursue, you go all in, right? And everybody knows what they're supposed to do within a team. And that's how we try to avoid being overextended in these crazy directions. It looks maybe like a lot of different directions, but it's pretty focused overall. You know what I mean? Like a narrative of the entire story.
Right. Certainly. Well, I mean, it sounds very exciting. That new line of e-bikes, I'm definitely on the edge of my seat waiting to see. So I hope you guys can stick to that 2-month estimate, because I'm excited to see what you guys are working on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, if you guys want to talk about it, we'll certainly do it once we go live.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back. Is there anything else that I didn't hit on, Seth, that you had any other questions?
Just curious about that 3-wheeled car that came and kind of went. That was such a cool product. I wonder what happened.
You know what? And I was just thinking about it yesterday as well. It's like, I really love that product, but the 3-wheel space. So it was tough to get capital for a 3-wheel space, right? Mm-hmm. And you can thank a couple companies for it, like Electromechanic,
Aptera,
the 3-wheeler, and then what's that, Archimoto, and then there's such a stigma to a 3-wheel space, so that so you would need like such a huge dollar amount to convert people into, that's not the case, right?
Right.
So as I thought that it would evolve and would become less stigmatized, I believe right now it's even more, right? So, and then what you do is if you do release and you put the funds in it, and people are excited with deposit stage, but then suddenly when it's time to actually make the purchase, there's a million reasons, and one of them it's missing one wheel, right? And you're really that becomes an uphill battle. But do I love that vehicle? I absolutely do. I think it would have been a phenomenal.
Yeah. And you guys did an amazing job with it. I mean, I know like certain angles, it kind of looked like a regular vehicle inside and out. It was gorgeous. So, maybe you put it on the shelf and come back a little bit later and revisit.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That would be really amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Storm. This has been awesome.